Hello, gorgeous souls. I hope you had a wonderful Valentine's Day. I have the week off, so you get a throwback to one of my favorite episodes about self-love, because that's what Valentine's Day is all about. I hope you enjoy the episode. I will see you next time.
This is Calm AF, a podcast for humans who are hard on themselves. A podcast for the overthinkers, people pleasers, perfectionists, and overachievers. I'm Kristen Finch, and I'm going to teach you how to quiet that incessant negative chatter in your head. Because you know what a person with a calm mind can do? Anything they want. Grab your coffee, gorgeous soul, because today's the day you get Calm AF.
Hello, gorgeous souls. Welcome back to Show Up in Love. I'm so happy to be here with you today. I hope you are doing well. I hope you are hanging in there and you are navigating this really bizarre time in history as best you can. And if you're not, I hope that you're reaching out and getting the support that you need because you matter. So today's message is short and sweet. Today, I want to talk about self-love. Specifically, what I want to talk about is why it feels hard, why the concept of loving ourselves feels hard. And then I'm going to tell you how to baby step your way towards it. Right? Self-love is a phrase that's tossed around and everyone has different ideas about what it means. And I'll go into what I think it means and how I perceive self-love. But throughout the episode, I might use the words interchangeably: self-love, self-kindness, self-worth, self-acceptance. Those words I kind of lump into meaning the same, little nuances that may be different, but for the most part, I use them interchangeably. So, you know, my jam is self-worth, self-love. And what I hear most often from people who come to me with questions or to get support from me, what I hear most often from people about the concept of self-love or self-acceptance is, I get it. I get self-love. It makes sense. But actually doing it is hard. Yes, it is. So over the past week, I have been thinking about why that is. In fact, I have been setting a timer every day, and for 30 minutes, I have been sitting my butt down at the desk and really trying to answer the question, what makes self-love so hard? Every day I would ask myself why it was hard for me when I first started on my journey, why it still is hard some days for me, and how I learned to move out of self-judgment and, the needing approval and people pleasing, how I moved out of that. Not perfectly, by the way. I want to make sure everybody understands that I am not some robot that never cares about what other people think, okay? But for the most part, I have moved my mind and shifted it out of self-judgment, self-hatred, self-deprecation, and all of those things, and into self-acceptance, self-worth, self-love. So I thought about my own journey here. Every week, I spend dedicated time thinking about each one of my clients. Like each one of I think I have 18 clients right now. Each one of them gets a specific amount of time every single week where I just think about them. I think about where they are, where they want to be, and how I can best serve and help them. But this week, I specifically thought about their stories and why self-love was a hard concept for them. I thought about my family, I thought about my husband, I thought about my kids, I thought about my friends. So I did this all week long, starting last week. And at the end of the 30 minutes, I would write down kind of a summary of what I came to. And that is really what I want to share with you today. Because here's one of the biggest issues with the concept of self-love. When we get it, but we can't seem to figure out how to do it, we judge ourselves, which immediately takes us farther away from self-love by being in self-judgment. Do you see the irony? Do you see like the cycle here? It's like, I know I'm going to try and I'm going to love myself and I'm going to accept myself. I get why it's important, so I'm going to do it. And then it doesn't work perfectly. And then we judge ourselves and we go right back. Why is this so hard for me? Why can't I figure this out? Self-love just isn't possible for me. I'm just broken. So here's the first thing I want to tell you. First of all, you're not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. And it is not your fault that loving and accepting yourself feels hard. When you were born, you were just pure love. You didn't have thoughts about yourself or what you needed to do in order to be accepted. You didn't have the mental capacity for that. Your brain wasn't capable of thinking about other people. But as you grew up, you started noticing things. You started developing an understanding about who you should be. You learned rules about what is right or what is wrong. You learned rules about what you do that make people think you're good or people think you're bad. We learn early on that good feelings come when you are good in the way that someone else needs you to be, and that person approves or that person is happy with you. Disappointment comes when someone else isn't happy with something you've done. Love comes when you follow the rules. Disapproval comes when you don't. You are praised for being good. You are punished for being bad or for not fitting into this picture of who your parents or your teacher or whoever it was thought you should be. We learn that we need other people's approval in order to think we're worthy. I just need to get this right. I just need to be the best. I just need everyone to approve of me so that I can stop hating myself. Our society runs on this unspoken rule of approval, not acceptance. We learn at a very early age that we aren't enough just as we are, that we have to constantly be changing and becoming something different in order to get the approval of the people who matter to us. Now listen, parents, we're doing the best we can with what we know. But what's true is that parents want to make sure that their children are fitting within the boundaries of good for a couple reasons, right? So first of all, so that the parent can feel okay about their parenting skills, but also so the kids don't have to feel the pain that they felt when they were kids and they were judged for being different or for not being enough or for not having approval or for not fitting in the box of what someone, their parent or their teacher told them they should be. It's so enmeshed, right? Like we're just doing the best we can and trying to love our kids unconditionally, but we're also like, and I need to protect you, and I need to protect me. We learn from our parents and from school what it means to be good and bad. We're taught to feel shame if we're too much, if we're too goofy. We're taught to feel shame if we're too gentle, if we're too sensitive, if we're too loud, if we're too quiet, if we're too big, if we're too small, if we're too rambunctious, if we're too polite. We're taught not to raise our hands unless we know we're right. We're taught that our voice is not important as someone else's, like it's not as important as the teachers or the bosses or someone who is clearly more worthy than you, right? Higher up on the worthy ladder. And if we do this right, then we will have the approval. Our parents, our teachers, our boss will be pleased, and then we'll be safe. Even if that means we have to not be who we really are, as long as we fit in this box here, then we can feel safe to feel good enough and to feel worthy and to think we're okay. We learn that other people's approval means we are good. And then that becomes it. That becomes where our worthiness lies. We can't love ourselves or accept ourselves unless we have the approval of others, unless other people think we're doing a good job. Now listen, I don't think children should have no rules or they shouldn't be taught, right from wrong, or that they're a hierarchy at work. There's a boss and then there's under that person and under that person. I don't think these things are wrong. I'm saying if we were taught as children that it was safe to be wrong, it was safe to make a mistake, it was safe to have a voice, it was safe to speak our truth, it was safe to try, to take risks, it was just safe to be who you really are without trying to shove yourself in a box, I'm just saying the world might look different if no one was running around trying to prove their worthiness. We are wired for this need to belong. We learned that we need to compromise our truth. and who we really are in order to get the approval of others so that we can feel safe, so that we won't be rejected, so that other people won't have negative opinions of us and won't leave us. We compromise who we really are. We make ourselves smaller. We try to check all the boxes, and still, we don't feel worthy. We don't feel enough. So do you see? It's normal. It's normal because this is what you've been taught since you were born. There's nothing wrong with you. You aren't broken for getting it but not being able to implement it. You've been taught this way of thinking. We all have since birth. You are good enough if everyone agrees you're good enough. So prove it. That's how we've been living. Higher level thinking sees the flaws here. This is why you get why self-love matters. Because your rational brain, your higher level thinking is like, yeah, I don't actually need approval. But the implementation isn't easy. And so you go right back to the self-judgment and that there's something wrong with you. I want you to think of it like this. Learning to love and accept yourself is like learning a new language. Yes, it's hard at first. But just like learning a new language, you start small. When I was a speech pathologist, my job was teaching children language, teaching them a language that they weren't able to use. They understood it a lot of times, but they couldn't implement it. In order to teach a child a new language, we started with babbling. Simple combos like ba 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 ba, ma 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 ma, da da da, right? They're just babbling, and I'm imitating and they're imitating. And then when they realized what was happening, we would focus on being able to produce specific sounds in isolation. So they could be like pa 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 pa, and then I would teach them say pa, and then they could say pa. And then we moved on to consonant vowel combinations, pa, pa. And then when they were able to do that, we'd move on to simple words, puppy. And then we'd move on to phrases, puppy dog. And then sentences, I see a puppy. And then conversations, I see a puppy outside. It's small. It says ruff, ruff. Right? That is how I taught children how to speak a new language. If you were to learn a new language right now, you would start with vocabulary, and then you'd work on words, and then you'd work on phrases, and then sentences. It starts small, and then you move your way up. There was never a time when I sat down with a child who was not speaking fluently and think, my first goal is going to be conversational speech. Like in one session, I need this child to be able to go out into the community and express their needs. And if he doesn't get it right away, or if he makes a mistake, there's just something wrong with him. He's broken. He's never going to be able to do it. That's ridiculous, right? You know that that's ridiculous. But for some reason, you think that you have to get this new language of self-love immediately. Otherwise, you're broken and it's just not possible for you. This is how I want you to think of what it takes to not just get the concept of self-love in your rational brain, but to start implementing it. Baby steps. You are, first of all, unlearning a concept that you have bought into in a society that has also bought into it. You have to prove your worthiness. You have to prove yourself. So first you have to unlearn, and then it's baby steps, and it takes a long time. I think maybe it takes a lifetime. I don't think there's ever a time when our brain is just like, I just am. Maybe there is. I don't know. Maybe there's someone out there. I haven't done it yet, and I've been doing this for a lot of years. It doesn't go from, I suck, I'm not smart enough, I'm not a good enough person, there's something wrong with me, I'm broken. We don't go from there to, I'm amazing, I love myself so much no matter what, and I don't need anyone else's approval. Right now, your higher level brain sees that that's unrealistic, that you can't go from I suck to I'm amazing overnight. But your fear brain is feeding you this shit all the time. Well, I tried. I read that Glennon book. I read Brene Brown. I journaled for 2 days. It didn't work. I suck. We have to give ourselves time. There's unlearning to do while you are learning a new language. So here are the baby steps as I see them. When I first start working with a client who feels a lot of self-hatred or self-judgment or just feels like they are not good enough, we work first on just acceptance of what is. It goes from I hate my body to I have a body. It goes from I hate my life to I have a life. This is who I am. This is where I am right now. In this body, in this relationship, in this home, in this life. These are just the facts. I am a woman in a marriage, in a home, in a job. This is just what's real. We have to move. That's the first neutral step. This is where I think people try and skip this step and they go straight from like not liking yourself to loving yourself. Once we get to the acceptance, then we can start moving to appreciation or liking yourself, right? What a concept that you could actually like yourself. What if I liked myself? What if I was just like, I like my body because it keeps me alive and it lets me walk and I breathe and I can eat because of my body. I like my life because I enjoy spending time with my son. I like my dog. I'm a great friend. Once we get to that point where we can start finding appreciation for what is, right? It starts with what is, then we find appreciation for what is. Then I feel like that's where we start moving into the self-love, self-worth, self-acceptance arena. And here is my take on that. Self-love is when you love and accept who you are now, flaws and all. You don't see flaws as reasons why you're bad. You see flaws as part of you, and you can change things if you want, but you do it because you want to, not because you need to prove something. I think self-love is really just liking yourself so much that you don't need anything to change to love yourself. I think self-love is opting out of society's rule book. And it's so funny when people, when I'm explaining this concept and people are like, well, you can't just do that. You can't do that. You can't just change society's rules. And my thought is like, watch me. But they say you can't just live your life the way you want to. That's anarchy. That people will be out of control. So this first shows me how restricted you have kept yourself, how small you have kept yourself, that you think if all of a sudden you have this ability to like yourself and to live your life as you are, as who you really are, you're going to lose all sense of decency and all control, right? The second thing that it shows me when people think like, you can't do that, is it makes me wonder what you think of people in general. Why people are inherently bad or they want to misbehave. I don't think that. I think most people, when they lose the self-judgment, when they lose the need to prove themselves, the best part of them comes out. I think it's the opposite. I strive to love myself like this every day. Every day I do my best to opt out and not try to prove myself, not believe that I have to change in order to be lovable or accepted in society. And I don't do it perfectly because I'm a human, but I at least show up for this challenge daily. I am doing the thing that someone else might say, if you just do that, everyone will be out of control. I feel like my life looks pretty normal. I'm not out of control. I'm not breaking laws. It's not anarchy all up in here. I'm happy. But instead of spending all of my mental bandwidth thinking about how I can prove myself to my parent or my partner or my boss or society or the world, instead of spending my time doing that, I'm spending my time thinking about people that I love, my marriage, my kids, my clients. I think about how I can be better for them, how not because there's something wrong with me, but because there's something right with me and I want to share it. I want to love them as they are. And the only way I can do that is when I love myself as I am. That has been the game changer in my marriage, in my opinion, on my end. That's why I feel so much happier in my marriage. It's not because I needed my husband to change. I needed to change so that I could see my husband differently. Is self-love easy? No. Unlearning something that is just in your DNA that you were just programmed with, it's not easy. Learning a new language, it's not easy. But it's worth it. Imagine what your life would look like if your running dialogue all day, every day was not about how you suck or how the world isn't fair or you have to prove yourself or there's something wrong with you. How much more time would you have in your day to create things? How much more things would you do? Because you don't need to procrastinate. When you're not thinking about yourself all the time, you can actually get shit done. It's a little unknown byproduct. Imagine how your life would feel If you knew that you didn't have to prove anything to anyone, you could just be yourself. Feels like freedom. Feels like light. And it is possible. It's so possible. You just need to stop judging yourself for not loving yourself immediately and then take those baby steps. Do the work, gorgeous soul. You will get there. If you love this podcast, you will love Calm AF Life. It's a self-paced, lifetime access DIY course that teaches you all the concepts that I talk about here, from nervous system regulation to manifesting with ease. And since we know that true change doesn't happen just because you know what to do, you also get an all-access pass to coaching calls and accountability so you don't stay stuck and you don't give up. The best investment you could ever make is in yourself. Calm AF Life is here for you now. Life's not waiting. Let's get you aligned with your Calm AF self, gorgeous soul. I cannot wait to meet you. Go to KristenFinch.com and join me today.